Bomb's surprising news. Jamie Dornan wants full custody of children after divorce from Amelia Warner. The press exploded on the gloomy autumn morning, on the front pages of a series of British entertainment magazines. Jamie Dornan asks for full custody of his 3 daughters after divorce from Amelia Warner. The news was like a knife cutting through the air. No one expected the man who was usually quiet and loved for his warm fatherly image to make such a controversial decision. Jamie read the news in silence. He was sitting in his newly rented apartment in Chelsea, the grey light of London filtering through the glass windows. On the table was a cup of cold coffee, next to it was an old photo, him, Amelia, and their 3 daughters, taken at the beach last year. Amelia's face in the photo was still smiling. At that time, they still believed that as long as they loved each other, everything would be okay. Now, everything was different. Jamie closed his eyes. In his head, he still heard the voice of his lawyer from the night before. Jamie, you have to be sure. The decision to seek full custody will cause a media frenzy. But if you believe it's in the best interests of the children, you have to be steadfast. And he nodded, not out of hatred, out of concern. The rift began with silence. In fact, Jamie and Amelia's marriage didn't collapse overnight. It broke down little by little, starting with silence. When Jamie returned from the studio after 3 months in Los Angeles, Amelia was in the studio, recording a new song. She didn't hear the door open. He stood there, suitcase in hand, the look in his eyes of the girl he once loved so passionately now distant as a memory. You're back? Yeah. The food's in the kitchen, I ate first. The kids are sleeping. The conversation ended there. No hug, no smile. Jamie sat down on a chair, listening to the piano from the studio. A sad melody, but heartbreakingly beautiful. He knew Amelia still loved music more than anything, including herself. When he tried to talk, she always said, "I'm fine, I just need some time to myself." But the time dragged on forever. When Amelia asked for a divorce, Jamie wasn't surprised. He just asked one question, "Are you sure?" Amelia looked down, her voice as soft as a breath. "We're not ourselves anymore, Jamie," and that was it. The 3 little girls, Dulcie 10, the eldest daughter, calm and observant. Elva 7, mischievous and imaginative. Alberta 4, still in her own fairy tale world. To Jamie, they were the whole universe. He could endure 1,000 rumors, but he couldn't bear the thought of the 3 girls growing up far from him. After the divorce, a temporary agreement allowed Jamie and Amelia to share custody, each half the time. But things didn't go smoothly. Every time Jamie returned the children to Amelia's house, he always noticed something strange. The children were quieter, smiled less, especially Dulcie. Once, when Jamie asked, "How is Mommy at home, honey?" Dulcie bowed her head. "Mummy's sad a lot, Daddy. She sits alone, crying." Jamie's heart sank. He didn't want the children to live in that sad atmosphere. He knew Amelia was teetering between grief and work. But the children needed stability, not prolonged sadness. That night, Jamie called his lawyer, his voice firm. "I want full custody of the children. I can't let them suffer anymore." Media wave. The day Jamie filed for full custody, everything exploded. The newspapers were full of headlines. Jamie Dornan declares war on his ex-wife. Amelia Warner collapses after losing custody of her children. The silent war between 2 artists once considered icons of exemplary marriage. Amelia, meanwhile, kept quiet. She only posted a short line on social media, "Sometimes, love is still there, but we have to learn to let go." Fans were divided. One side supported Jamie, the devoted, gentle father who always loved his children unconditionally. The other side sympathized with Amelia, the woman who was unfairly judged, who once gave up her career to take care of her family. Jamie tried not to read the comments. But how could she avoid them? Every time she opened her phone, thousands of lines poured into her eyes. He's selfish. Isn't she good enough? Jamie just wants to maintain his public image. He hung up and sat in silence. But deep down, he knew, he was doing it for his son, not for anyone else. Fateful encounter. One afternoon, at a small cafe in Notting Hill, Jamie and Amelia met for the first time after filing for court. Amelia wore a beige wool coat, her hair tied loosely, her face thinner than before. Jamie looked at her for a long time, then said, "I don't want to turn this into a war." She smiled softly. "But you are turning it into one. I just want the children to have the best environment." "I'm afraid you're too sad to take care of them." Amelia's voice trembled. "Do you think I don't love them, Jamie? I've been with them every day, when you went to film, when you received awards, when you flew around the world. I love them more than myself." Jamie squeezed her hand. "I know. But I see Dulcie sad, Elva scared, Alberta starting to have nightmares. I can't stand by and watch." A long silence. Finally, Amelia said softly, "You don't understand. You only see the surface. You don't see the nights I held the kids and cried. You don't see me hiding my tears behind a smile every time they asked about you." Jamie bowed his head. For the first time, he wasn't sure he was right. Before the trial. The custody trial was scheduled for 2 months later. The media waited outside the courthouse, cameras focused on the once iconic couple. Before the trial, Jamie met his 3 daughters. He said, "I want to ask you guys. If you want to spend more time with your mom, I won't be mad. I just want to know the truth." Dulcie looked straight into his eyes. "Dad, I love you and Mom. But when I'm with you, I feel more at peace. When I'm with Mom, I'm afraid she'll be sad." Elva whispered, "I just want you and Mom to stop arguing." Alberta put her arms around her father's neck. "I want to stay with you. You make delicious porridge." Jamie smiled, tears falling. That night, he sat down and wrote in his diary, "I don't want to win. I just want my children to be happy. But sometimes, to protect them, you have to accept being a bad person." The trial of tears. The courtroom that morning was filled with cold light. Jamie walked in a grey suit, his face calm. Amelia sat opposite, wearing a white shirt, her hands clenched. Jamie's lawyer presented. "My client, Mr. Jamie Dornan, requests full custody on the basis that Mrs. Warner is currently suffering from a psychological disorder that could affect the children's mental development." Amelia burst into tears. "Do you really think him not capable of being a mother, Jamie?" He turned to her, his voice choked. "I'm not saying you're not capable. I just want our children to have a safer place." The trial lasted for hours. Both sides presented evidence, testimonies, and psychological evaluations. The press outside was a storm. When the court adjourned, Jamie went out into the hallway and saw Amelia standing alone. He approached. "Are you okay? Do you think I'm okay?" she asked, tears streaming down her face. "I'm not mad at you. I'm just hurt because the person who promised to protect me is now turning against me." Jamie didn't answer. He knew there were things that couldn't be justified. Confession. 3 days later, the court adjourned so the 2 sides could negotiate. That night, Amelia knocked on Jamie's door. He opened the door, surprised. She stood there, wet from the rain, her eyes tired. I can't go on like this. Whether you win or I win, our child still loses. Jamie invited her in. The house was warm. On the table was a picture the children had drawn for her. Mom and Dad love you. Amelia looked at her for a long time, then said, Jamie, I'll let you take care of the kids for the time being. But I want to see them whenever I can. Don't cut me out of their lives. Jamie was silent. I promise. I never wanted that. I was just afraid you'd burn out. She smiled sadly. Maybe you really need a break. But don't ever tell the kids you left them. Tell them, I'm learning to love myself so I can love them better. Jamie nodded. He held her hand, for the first time in months. Thank you, Amelia. For still thinking about the kids, even when it hurts.